Hello everyone, and welcome to our demonstration on the Design Manager Pro Cloud User Activity Log. My name is Brad, and I'll be hosting the demonstration today. If you have questions during the webinar, feel free to enter them into the questions pane on your GoToWebinar panel. If the question is outside of the scope of today's topic, please email them to support@designmanager.com. And lastly, if you miss a portion of the webinar or want to review any of our past discussions, go to our YouTube channel at Design Manager Inc., Design Manager INC. And here you can see a complete listing of all sorts of topics, including quick start videos, short helpful tutorials, and our comprehensive webinars, which we categorize into our project management and accounting courses, along with all of our other weekly webinars as well. Now, as I said, today's discussion reviews the user activity log, which allows you to analyze what processes a Pro Cloud user accesses, what functions have been performed, data that was input or amended, etc. So let's get started. Okay, now, the activity log is one of the newer features in Pro Cloud and is really the singular interface to review what actions were performed by users, data entries or edits, functions accessed, and more within your Pro Cloud application. And as we will see shortly, the activity log provides this amazing window into precisely what actions have transpired, and as such may be considered sensitive within your company. So if desired and you wish to restrict access, go to File, Company Information and Settings, which brings up our Company Information window. Click on your Users and Security tab and go ahead and edit a user in question. We'll use Casey as an example. To restrict access, go under File, User Activity Log, and just double click the lock so it becomes locked as such, and that will prevent access to the user activity log. Okay. The user activity log itself is also accessed off the File menu, and you can see it right about halfway down the user activity log. Now, similar to the transaction and specification search windows, the user activity log allows you to input a variety of parameters. We can see those along the top. That's going to review all the various activities and functions that satisfy the conditions that you input. So let's review those parameters first. One of the most obvious parameters is the date range of interest, and we can see that defaults to the current date, but of course can be changed. So let's set it for perhaps 1 week. So I'm going to use our date search, and let's go ahead and select last Thursday, click our find button, and see what activity has occurred within the last week. Now notice on our date time column, we're only seeing activity from 3/26 forward. And you can see all of the various information that's going to be listed for us on all of our various activities. Speaking of which, let's take a moment to review all of the columns and see what information is provided for us here. So we can see first we have our date time. This is the actual date and the precise moment that an action or activity occurred for us. The user represents the name associated with the Pro Cloud account that performed the action. The type of action and function will be reviewed in great detail shortly, so we'll hang on to those for a moment. Then we can see the project code in name for various activities that have such associated with them. The reference number, this could be the specification number, as in this case. It could be a proposal number, invoice number, etc. And finally, the description of what occurred. You can also sort and search like you can in most grids in Design Manager. So if I wanted to sort by type and jump down to, let's see if anyone entered in proposals or payee addresses, I just start typing and I can jump right down to it. Now, there isn't a way to print your findings, but you can use the export function. That'll create an Excel sheet for you with each of the columns and all of the information listed for you. So for your records, and you record and review at your leisure. And here is an example just like that. So there it is, all in your Excel sheet for your records. Anything you want to analyze, review, etc., can be done from here. Okay, back to our available parameters. So we already saw we have our date range listed for us. We have the user. Well, we can use everyone to review activity for all accounts, or we can narrow it down to focus on a particular team member. We can select myself, see what activities I have done in the last week, switch over to Casey, do that as well. And we'll go back to everyone. So you can look at the entirety by using everyone or a particular team member at a time. The project, you can further narrow down your functions to a particular project. So if I go ahead and put in our Southwest Bed and Breakfast, now notice that all of the activities are associated with that particular project. So you can really hone down on all of the activity for a given project. Okay, next, now the type. I said we'd get there momentarily, and here we are. This is where we can begin to see truly how formidable the activity log can be. The type allows the user to select a particular function or data point in ProCloud to filter upon. Now, obviously, this is going to warrant a bit more explanation, as you can see all those various types that we can review upon. Now, I can review access to sensitive areas such as accounting configuration or company settings. Let's take a look at the chart of accounts as an example. If I go ahead and click Find, I can see that Casey made a few different changes to our chart of accounts. First, I can see that she added an account, and I can also see that she edited an account by changing the name. Now, this is going to lead us to two different topics, which we'll explore more deeply. First is the concept of the function itself. I can see it add editing and adding, and we can see all the associated functions as our function menu as well. It also leads to the concept of the activity description. Now notice I can see that the account name was changed upon this edit. So what's going on is ProCloud is unobtrusively recording any changes, alterations, additions, deletions that occur at each and every moment. And upon doing so, it writes a short transaction of what transpired. So here I can see the account name changed from, I can not only see that it has changed, but I can see what the original value was, cash checking in this example, to what it now currently is, Wells Fargo checking. So ProCloud is monitoring that minute detail behind the scenes for you, so I can see what a value was and what it is now. Okay, another example. Let's see, how about company information and settings? Another example of sensitive information. So if we can see what activity may have occurred there, we have a few other changes made by Casey. Now, unlike the checking account having its name changed, some of the information may not be quite as easily discernible, but with a little bit of experience and or some help from our client team, you can quickly learn how to determine what was changed. And in this case, I can see that we've activated the suppress designer signature on proposal settings, and simultaneously, we also selected to repeat the location name in the header on each page of our proposal. Further, some other edits were made where we can see that one of our component types, the markup was changed from 10% to 15%, and our default merchandise markup percentage changed from 30 to 40%. Similarly, you can analyze what accounting activity was entered or amended. So let's drop down and select, or how about client invoice? Perfectly. So if I go ahead, I can see all of the client invoices that were posted or created within the last week. Further, I can even see that a few of those invoices were actually credit memos. And I can see exactly who performed it and when that occurred. Really powerful tool if you think about it. So you can see all those various areas where you can search upon for what activity occurred. Most of them, as the ones we just went through, are pretty self-explanatory. Now, one concept that is not quite as straightforward is the operational transactions. Now, these include opening ProCloud, launching the program, accessing a window, clicking a function on a toolbar, etc. Now, this works synergistically with the function selection, particularly options such as open. So if we go ahead and use the type of operational in the function of open, I can see precisely what user launched or ran ProCloud and when they did so. So every time that someone goes into the program, that's being recorded in your user activity log. What other functions are applicable to the operational type? Window is a great one. This is going to show us what particular windows or areas in the software were accessed by each user. I can see when they were opened, etc. What's this going to tell us? Well, where are users or team members spending their time? Is a user accessing functionality for an unusual amount of time? Do they need more training on that functionality? Perhaps a little bit more negatively, are they not accessing areas that they should be to really perform their given duties? What else? Toolbar, another concept. This is similar to the window, but it really represents the click of the function toolbar. So as I hit any of the actions on my toolbar, that gets recorded. Now, here's an example. The user that I'm logged in under actually doesn't have access to journal entries. Access denied, can't get in there. But if I go ahead and let's put in today, if I go to review what toolbar functions were attempted, I can even see that Casey has tried to access the journal entries window. She was denied, but I can see that the attempt occurred. So is a user experimenting in ProCloud in areas from which they don't have any access? Again, nothing negative there, just seeing where different users are accessing areas throughout the software. Plus, if I want to analyze what security settings I have in place or review the ones that I need to put in place, that's a great way to tell which user is going to what sensitive area throughout the software. What other functions here? Report. Great one. What if I can even review what reports were generated in a particular time frame? I might say to myself, did I run my monthly financials yet for March? Well, let me switch over to my account and let's go ahead and check last week. Fantastic. Just like that, I can see the reports that I have ran, and back on the 27th, I sure did run all of my aged accounts receivable, open client deposits, aged accounts payable, etc. Great, so I know that I can double check that I ran all of my monthly financials as I expect myself to do on a monthly basis. So we can really see how several of the functions apply only to that operational type, but there are others that actually only apply to true data entry. As we can imagine, add would be one such example. So let's switch our operational back to all. And let's get everyone, you know what, let's widen our span of our date range and let's see what we can see. So now we're focusing on the functionality of add, creating transactions. And we can see I've added items and components. I've added sales categories, vendors, proposals, purchase orders, you name it. Design Manager is automatically tracking the creation of these various entities or entries, whatever they may be. And you can view all such of those types. If I want to see just what proposals were made or just what purchase orders were made during a particular time frame, I can do so. Very powerful concept. Well, if we can track what was created, we can also review what's been deleted. So if we switch our function over to delete, and we'll use the same time frame, now I can see everything that was actually deleted throughout throughout your ProCloud. Now, some of these entries may have been completely deleted and then added again. So if I added proposal 1, I deleted it. A day later, I added again. The one that I'm reviewing may be completely overwritten at this point, but the user activity log is still indicating the exact precise history of what has occurred. And that's really, kind of amazing if we think about it. Now, one of the unquestionably most powerful tools of the user activity log is to be able to view what has been changed using the edit function. So let's switch that over. Edits can be pretty overwhelming. Every time that the user clicks OK on a window, it's going to make an edit transaction. So let's focus on perhaps narrowing it down just to components themselves. And I can even input a particular project to make it a little less overwhelming. Click Find. And now we can see every different change that has occurred for a particular, in this case, project, and edit that I've made within that time frame to these various components. I can see that I entered a supplier. The supplier was originally blank, and I put a value in. I've changed a ship to and a supplier. I've changed a ship to by itself. But if we look at a more complicated scenario, we can see that Natasha has actually made several changes to the cost for a particular component. So by changing the cost, it usually automatically changes the billing price and the extended price. The quantity changes, that would do all of that as well. And if I can't read what's listed just in the description column, you can hover your mouse, as I'm doing here, and immediately easily see everything that has been changed. And even though some of those prices and in field terms may be a little esoteric, they're also still pretty discernible. I can see what billing price has changed from what value to what value, what cost, etc. So by making a single or multiple input changes, quantity, etc., all that various activities occurred, and it's all being tracked for us. So we don't need to think of the activity log as a means to find fault. It's not. Rather, this is simply a tool to review the historical changes to a component, to a proposal, whatever. When the information we are currently seeing is perhaps not what we anticipated. If you ever come across a project setting or cost or price on an item that isn't what you anticipated or for some reason isn't what you think it should be, you can use the activity log to see precisely how the change occurred, when it occurred, and by whom. Again, not blaming fault, just finding out what actually happened so you know the answer. And as you can imagine, that's a really powerful tool to review any and all data entry from your team members. And with that, that brings us to the end of our discussion on the Pro Cloud User Activity Log, where, as we saw, you can review access to functions by a user or all users, what information was input or changed, operations that were executed, and much, much more. So be sure to review the user activity log and really see for yourself all the powerful tools that it can really afford you and your company. We also saw how to restrict access to the user activity log and through our sophisticated security system, and how to even export your findings for your records. And with that, I thank you all for joining the discussion today, and I hope you attend another of our free webinars in the near future. Take care and have a great day.